Welcome back to the podcast, guys. So today I've done an interview with Jimmy Jones. Now, Jimmy Jones is a singer, but that's not all about Jimmy. Jimmy has lived a life. He's been through all sorts of experiences in his life. We talk about relationships, domestic abuse targeted at men in relationships. And I know that the vast majority of domestic abuse is sort of towards women in relationships, but the subject of domestic abuse on men is not really talked about. And we talk about that at the start, and Jimmy gives his experiences with domestic abuse in relationships. So if you're going through them things or you want to hear about them things, that's at the start of the podcast. He also talks about his early life, his sort of traumatic experiences, things that, sort of molded him into where he would become in his teens, his late teens. And we talk about drugs and cannabis. And the thing about cannabis, guys, is that cannabis can be smoked and could be took, and it's fine for a majority of people. But for a lot of people out there, cannabis isn't the best thing for them. I myself, I've got possibly an underlying mental health issue. If I smoke cannabis, it makes me incredibly paranoid, and I couldn't speak to people. I couldn't do this now. I would be babbling. I wouldn't even be able to keep my train of thought. And some people actually like that, and they can deal with that. With me, I can't. So for me, I can't smoke cannabis. Did I smoke cannabis? I smoked a hell of a lot of it whenever I was younger, and I probably done myself a lot of damage. So me and Jimmy talk about this issue, and I do believe that cannabis, if it's ever to be made legalized, it has to be made legal for people over the age of 21 or even 25, because for young men, I think it's the woman's brain develops earlier than the man's. So a man's brain doesn't fully develop until the age of 25, I believe. Could be wrong, but I think it's roughly around that age. And if your brain isn't fully developed and you're smoking weed, you're drinking loads, that can sort of hinder your development. And I find that if we want to get anywhere in life, we should, yes, enjoy cannabis, enjoy alcohol, enjoy drugs. Who am I to say that you can't do something? But let's sort of understand that this can hinder you for the rest of your life. And if you start something and your brain isn't fully developed, that is a fact. That is a fact. There's lots of people in schizophrenic wards. There's lots of people that had underlying mental health issues that smoked cannabis, and that has been drawn out of them. I believe if I had stayed on cannabis, I probably would have been in a psych ward, because where my life was going at the time was terrible, and I'm glad I made the decision to get off it. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't smoke it, but always know that there's a risk with these things, and anything abused, especially at a young age, can have a really bad dominoes effect later on in life. We also talk about Jimmy's spirituality, his religion. He had a spiritual awakening. Tune in to sort of the end of the podcast to hear about that. And I'm speaking to a lot of people that have had spiritual awakenings, religious awakenings, and it's very much personal to each own. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I don't like a Bible basher. I don't like somebody that sort of tries to ram something down your throat. You should believe this. You should do that, because I think everything is subjective. We all have our own sort of spirituality and our own religious beliefs, but to a certain degree, there is something. I do believe that there is something, and me and Jimmy touch on this during the podcast, in the middle of the podcast, during the end of the podcast, whenever it is. And so tune in for all of that, guys, if you're into those types of subjects. And as I say, the links for all Jimmy's social medias where you can get his music. He's a fantastic singer. This guy can sing. This guy is a proper singer. And we also touch on the whole X Factor thing too. What's his views on the X Factor? So, go over and like his Facebook page, tune in. I think he still does his lives on Facebook. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but he has his music all over Facebook anyway. And yeah, this is a very deep conversation about Jimmy's life, and obviously me sort of throwing in relevant questions and sort of trying to bring relevance to myself, to Jimmy's life. So yeah, if you want to go over and follow him on all those platforms, guys, you can find all the links for all his social medias, all his music in the comment section of this video. Please go over. And remember, guys, if you haven't already, smash that like button and subscribe and ring the bell to this channel. I appreciate all my subscribers, everybody that comes to tune in, the haters, the lovers, you're all welcome. And yeah, enjoy the podcast. And here is a little clip of Jimmy's music. Enjoy. Peace.
And you're there when I reach out for you. Love is in the air. Love is in the air. Oh, oh, yeah. Lady, willpower, it's now or never. Give your love to me and I'll shower your heart with tenderness, endlessly. If I never sing another song, it wouldn't bother me. I've had my share of fame. You know my name. Just help yourself to my lips, to my arms. Just say the word and they are yours. Just help yourself to the love in my heart. Your smile has opened up the door. The greatest wealth that exists in the world could never buy what I can give. To reach the unreachable star.
Your story is absolutely I had to sort of read back on the email that you sent me. It's mind-blowing what you've been through, like.
Well, that's quite nice to hear. I mean, I don't claim to be anything special, you know. I'm not I've never been a person that's got an ego. I'm very modest, always have been, always put others before myself. And yeah, I just feel like I've got a bit of a story, really. I've been living with this overwhelmness in myself, which is something I've never really experienced. Yeah, my life has just changed, and yeah, it's quite amazing, really. It's quite amazing because my life has always been a mess. So
we'll take it from there. Then we'll take it from the start. Give the audience a brief on yourself and where you come from, who you are, and sort of your sort of early life.
Yeah, of course. Well, my name's James. I'm actually born and bred in a little city called Peterborough, which is in Cambridgeshire. Probably around, for those of you that don't know where that is, probably 60 or 70 miles from London, depending on where in London you're going to be. But we're not too far, only a good train ride from Peterborough to London. As a commute, but yeah, I've been here all my life. I've got three children. I've got a son, Regan, who's 15, a daughter, Maisie, who's 13, and a little girl called Elizabeth, who's 10. And they were always living with their mum. I mean, I've got my son with me now, pretty much full time. I'm actually in court on the 8th to try and get full custody or shared care of my son. Which has been a long wait. It's been a long old battle. Went through quite a bit with that relationship, and getting away was quite difficult. But obviously, I was punished when I left, and wasn't always allowed to have or see my kids, as you hear quite often in those situations. So
yeah.
It's nice for years later now for my eldest son to be sort of seeing things with his own eyes and understanding what's gone on. And I was always told, James, they'll know in the end. They'll know in the end, and it's actually come true. And my little boy's been, I say little boy's 15. I treat him like a baby. I love him. I can't help him. Like cotton wool. I can't help it.
Yeah.
But I think that's because, when I was living with the mum and the kids, we had a lot of arguing going on, and I feel a bit of guilt, that I wasn't the best father I could have been when we were together, because I was so occupied with what was going on with her. And now I'm trying to make up for it. I just want to give him everything, overcompensate. Far too soft as a dad, I am. Far too soft. But yeah, he's been here all summer holiday. He's got in a routine. He's up. He's it sounds silly, but he's washing every day. He's having a shower every day without being told.
Yeah, I get that, man. I get that. I understand.
He's things that when his mum would tell him, he would say, "Oh, go away," or "I'm not doing it." With me, he respects me enough to do these things.
Yeah,
and it's good. He's going back to school. He loves his music like me, and he's a good guitarist, self-taught. So my birthday's on the 9th of September. I got caught on the 8th. But I think there'll be another hearing. I don't think it'll be the first initial hearing.
So that's a big sort of impact in your life there. There's a lot of men going through that in regards to child custody. The parents don't get along, and maybe the dad doesn't like the mum doesn't like the dad, and there's this, and the kids caught in the middle. I mean, even if you're comfortable enough to talk about it, it's quite a relevant topic.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Do you want to take us? Do you want to take us through honestly about what happened in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy. People say there's two sides to every story.
Yeah.
So I know the truth in my own head. I know it took me a long while to understand that what was going on between me and the kid's mum wasn't just an argument every day. I was actually, as far as I'm concerned, being abused. If she was to see this, she probably wouldn't agree. But I'm convinced that there's a certain caliber of females or girls, there's men as well, I'm not coming across like that, but that believe scenarios in their head which aren't actually true. Mm-hmm. And I'm convinced it's like an illness.
Mm-hmm.
It's deranged behaviour.
Psychological abuse.
Yeah, I mean, I've always tried. I mean, I could tell you so many things about the relationship, and it was arguing every single day. It was horrific. I never ever hit the kid's mum, although I've been accused of things like that, as you do. He's done this, he's done that. Never in a million years did I do that. I used to hit myself. I used to hit a wall or hit anything but the person that potentially actually deserved it, if you get my drift. I'd punish myself. I used to sit there for hours on end with my fingers in my ears to try and block what was being said, because
mm-hmm.
the hearing it would have made me kick off and react back, and it was like I was being pushed to be that person, which I wasn't. Mm-hmm. I'm not a woman abuser, never have been. Have I been on the end of abuse from multiple females? Yeah, I have. And you look at my face, you think he's a rugged chap. He can probably handle himself. He's got one of them faces. But when you come to being with a female, I'm very soft. I'm quite vulnerable.
Man, the thing about it is, I speak to so many men, and like yourself, and there's a common theme with a woman. Obviously, women can be mentally abused. Obviously, women can be physically abused. Obviously, the statistics are very high in regards to men doing that to women. But are they really? What are the statistics of men? Because men don't speak, we don't talk. We don't talk about abuse. We're in situations, we just try to get on with it.
Yeah,
I have to say, the mental abuse in a relationship can take its toll, and maybe sometimes it's neither anybody's fault. It's just the relationship, and you just have to learn to walk away. But some people are trapped in these relationships you can't separate, and it's like a negative energy. My heart does go out to anybody that's suffering from that, but I definitely think the issues surrounding men and emotional abuse, like men have egos, right? And for a woman to constantly be picking at a man's ego, he's better, you're a piece of shit. I've seen it. I've been around women that do this to men, and men have to just shake it off as if it's nothing. But that's the equivalent, in my opinion, to hitting a woman, because
it is.
It feels I don't know. Listen, I don't know how it feels. I'm not a woman. I've never been hit like that before, but the emotional damage that would do after years and years and years, I could just imagine that it would take its toll. And massive respect for you for speaking out about that. Is there any tips or anything that you could say to any fellas that are going through that scenario? Any advice?
Do you know what? It was. I can't want to talk about everything because certain things could be seen by the other party and whatever.
Of course, yeah.
I'll give you some examples. I have been humiliated in public. I remember coming back from London once, and she was drunk on a train. It was my birthday, actually. I came back from London on my birthday, and I was being called a paedophile in a train full of people on the way back. Paedophile. And I just sat there like, just get home, get me home. It's horrible. I'd tell her to her face, I need to leave. I have to leave the situation. I don't want to be here anymore. It was as blatant as that.
Mm-hmm.
You leave me, you won't see the kids, you leave me, you leave me. So I was stuck. I left once and then ended up going back because she lied about an incident that didn't happen. She said it did to her, which resulted in me going back to protect her and the family. And I'm convinced to this day she would maybe terrorise her own. Are we getting feedback there? Is that okay?
No, 100%, man. You're saying,
that she would potentially prank call her own family so that she could say it was me through the night, prank call them throughout the night. Things like that. There's so many things, an instance, I could talk about. It's a totally different story. It really is. I've been single 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I did marry after the kid's mum.
Mm-hmm.
About a year later to a girl that I went out with when we were 17 for 6 months. But again, a different kind of abuse from her, if you like. She was more loving, but she was very insecure about her own past, and she sort of suffocated me. I wasn't allowed to do anything. I wouldn't be singing now for a living, or if I was still with her, because she wouldn't like that. So and rather than like most blokes will just say, I'm doing it, deal with it, I wouldn't. I would do what she said. I would always do what she said. I would always, no, I won't do that, or I wouldn't do this.
Can I say something though?
Yeah.
And I have to say it, right? There's people, and there's men, and there's women. As I say, before we started this podcast, I was saying he was flicking through reels, and there's my missus has done it. A lot of people have done it. Men have done it to their missus even. And the expectations on the people today, even for the past 15 years, 10 years with social media, look at this person, look at this relationship, look at this TikTok reel, look at this, look what they're doing for each other. It's all fake, guys. So what I'm finding, and I'm speaking to a lot of people, is that there's a lot of women, more so women, that have this expectation on a man to be a certain way. They expect them to be wealthy. They expect them to be incredibly good looking, shredded, have a car, and to have romance. Life doesn't work that way. We're not all built perfect. We're not all built. Actually, none of us are built perfect. That's all fake. Social media isn't real. And I'm actually seeing today a lot of relationships being ruined by the expectations that social media has put onto us about relationships. Would you agree with that?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, it works. It's both ways, really. Obviously, it can work both ways. But and then again, I say both ways, but I have a certain particular female that I would warm towards now. There's a certain breed of female which I would stay clear from. I don't want to say I've got a hatred, because I haven't got a hatred, but there's definitely something in me that makes me angry about. So, if I see an attention-seeking female, for example, that's obsessed with being looked at, things like that, it makes me angry. You know, it's, oh, just you know, just I can't stand it. And they're not the sort of girls I could ever want to be with.
Yeah, no, I understand. That's the opposite effect. You see, that's the ripple effect that has with these weird sort of expectations that people have on relationships today. You know, there's nothing wrong with seeking attention. There's nothing wrong with looking good. But if you go through these experiences in life and have these experiences with a certain type of partner, you're going to essentially what it's going to do is it's going to leave you with resentment and hatred towards that personality type. And it's very hard, especially there's hating a personality type and then there's actually being attracted to the person. And I know that there's a difference because people, you know, as I say, we you know, they say opposites attract. I don't actually agree with that. I think personally myself, I think you need to have similar aspects to be in that relationship, to be with each other, and you just need to have sort of be on the same wavelength. And not with everything, but with a lot of things for that relationship to work. But listen, we're not here just to talk about your relationship. We're here to talk about your life, and you've had many life experiences. Where do you want to start off with this podcast? I'll leave it up to you. I always do this with my guests.
Yeah, of course.
Wherever they want to start off from.
Well, the first thing I want to do, Ronan, just before I go into that, is I never answered your question about tips for men that might be in a similar situation.
Yes.
I'll keep it very brief. Things I regret not doing sooner would have been to go to court when the children not being allowed to see their father straight away. You know, I wasn't seeing the kids for over a year because I was punished because I left. And every father, unless you're a sexual predator or whatever, you cannot be kept away from your children. Any court would tell you that, and you could, even if it's every other weekend, get it done straight away. Fill out the form, apply for court, bang, don't wait a year. My second one would be is don't use a solicitor, because a solicitor is just a waste of time. You know, it cost me £7,000 to get every other weekend, which is what it was. And now when I've got the situation coming up now, I've got a Mackenzie friend, and all I do is I pay him his fuel costs to come and see me. He does it because he's been in a similar situation. You know, he enjoys doing it for fathers that can't, you know, he's been there. So, and ultimately, when you do leave that sort of situation, you finally get away, just stay away. It's very, very difficult. Don't engage, stay away, and don't go back. You know, I kept going back because I was thinking, oh, she's distraught, she's breaking down. The kids will see in the way she is now because I've left. You know, she'd be having a bit of a breakdown in front of the children. And that's why I'd go back again. It's very difficult. But I'm here for anybody. If anyone's asking any questions, I really have been through it. Regardless of what she would say, I've been through it.
Yeah, listen, and I think that resonates with the public. And it's just simple things like that can help, you know, like stay away. Because, you know, I've been through a few relationships myself, and it's, you know, maybe not as extreme like that. I'm in a 12-year relationship now. There's been issues. There's been a lot of issues like everybody else. But it's when you're going through certain situations where you're maybe being abused, emotionally abused, that's not seen as anything directed at a guy. We're just told to get on with it. But just to stay away, because as you say, you've got as a father, you have these things. Are the kids okay? Are they financially secure? Are they being fed? Are they being looked after? And the mum might be 100% fine, but it's that worry, that constant worry, because you're always there. You're the protector. You're the guy that locks the door at the end of the night to make sure.
Yeah, exactly that.
I get that.
And the thing is as well, you know, you'll go back and it'll be okay for a little while, but truth is, it'll never change when it's that toxic. It's only a matter of time before it starts happening again. Mm-hmm. And then when you do leave again, you have to start all of that process again of staying away. You know, it's really difficult.
It's like drugs, isn't it? It's like you're addicted to some type of drug, and then you're clean, and then you get back into it, and then you have to go through the process of gain of rehabilitation.
Yeah, it's exactly the same.
Yeah, it's mental. Yeah. And that's a situation that's never talked about in regards to men and what a man should do whenever they're breaking up from, regardless of gay men. Yeah. It doesn't matter what it is. If you're getting out of a relationship, men tend to struggle with that aspect of life.
Yeah. I mean, imagine being forced in a relationship where one day, you know, you could have the police called on you for doing nothing. Yeah. But yet you're trapped in a relationship that you know is wrong and you can't be there, but you can't get out of. I used to run around the house shutting the windows because I'd be convinced the neighbours would think I was kicking the hell out of her when I wasn't, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you know, that's that part of my life. It's gone now. I don't normally talk about it because it brings a lot of anxiety back up and the feeling that I don't like.
Yes, I was just about to say that, and I'm not going to prolong that, but what I will say is there's one thing I'm going to have to ask you about, is that would leave you with an anxiety, and I am sort of similar in regards to loud noises and sort of having this, it's like a social anxiety with people watching me and sort of being in the spotlight. And you're a singer. This is the thing. I've listened to your show reel. You're one of the best singers that I've ever heard. And I mean, I'm going to, if you would allow, I'll play your show reel at the beginning of this podcast for people to hear 100%. You sing. And to have that anxiety, the lasting anxiety from that, did that take a while for that anxiety to go?
You know what? That was just a chapter of my life, the relationships. I think a lot of my anxiety and other stuff came from before that, from being a young child. Ultimately, when you have issues when you're a young child with your upbringing, that then goes into relationships. So that always comes after because of the way you're made, if that makes sense. You know, if I was a strong-headed character and I got into a relationship, I would deal with it correctly. I wouldn't be hurt so much, if that makes sense, or be or have the vulnerability to be abused or be vulnerable. You know, you're like
your childhood. Then what happened in your childhood that was, if you mind?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'll keep it limited because of various reasons. But you know, we had a good upbringing. Really, we had good materialistic things. Mum and dad. We had a nice big house. We had 3 or 4 holidays abroad. My dad was a gang master. You know, he'd have like multiple vehicles out on the roads, vans with women in it, would go out to the fields and the factories. And, you know, we had what we needed. We were never spoiled. We had what we needed, but we were not spoiled, which I'm thankful for today, because there's nothing worse than spoiled kids. You know, things were a little bit difficult at times. You know, I felt sometimes that I was treated differently to my siblings, maybe singled out sometimes. And as I grew up, I felt like, you know, maybe like there was something wrong with me, you know, because I had to blame a lot of the time. But, you know, it was difficult for me. And when I say that, it's obviously, I mean, my father. But when I grew up, I think when I was 11, my mum explained to me that my dad wasn't my dad, which was the dad that brought me up from probably 2 years of age, you know. And I love my dad. When I reference my fathers in this podcast, it will be dad and real dad. It won't be stepdad and dad. It will be dad and real dad. That's how I would reference the two apart. I have a lot of respect for my dad who brought me up. He was there when my real dad wasn't. And I will always be loyal. I'm a loyal person for that. Regardless of how things were, sometimes they were difficult for him and me. You know, I think there was a bit of a history between himself and my real dad back in the day. So there's obviously that, you know, I was like the child that just arrived and, you know, so, but I have ultimate respect for him. And there's a lot of people in the world that had a lot worse upbringing than what I ever did. But things did have an effect on me, you know, as I grew up, and they did knock my confidence. And I think as I grew up, well, I said, thought maybe there was things wrong with me. Always felt like, you know, I've suffered from depression for quite a young age, anxiety, all of those lovely things that most of the population seems to deal with these days.
Well, that's the thing, man. There's that, you know, back then, right? I'm 35 now, so whenever I was a kid, I'm thinking now, right, I can diagnose all these feelings. So I can tell you now if I'm anxious, if I feel depressed, if I feel something. Back in the day, I can remember feeling those exact same things, but not having a clue how to express them, what to do about it. And back then, it was deemed, get up and get on with it. You have to get over it.
Yeah.
You're a boy. Don't be crying. This whole thing that we say to kids today, don't cry. You know, boys don't cry. It's probably not the best thing to teach your kid, because at the end of the day, crying's an emotion. Anxiety is an emotion. It's depression is an emotion. If you don't deal with that from an early age, of course, it's going to have effects on you as you get older in life. And would you think that would be a sort of a good assessment of?
Without a doubt, without a doubt. You know, we're made into the people we are at a young age. You know, I've got good qualities from my life, and obviously I've had difficulties because of my life, like anybody else. I went through that, you know, those years of blame and feeling sorry for myself, as we probably all do. But you get to a point in life where you think you have to forgive to move on, which is something I had to do. But definitely, you know, it's what molds us, it's what makes us. But sometimes these situations and these scenarios is what makes you stronger in the end. And my mother has always been a claimant of that phrase. You know, you will always pull through in the end, James, and be the strongest. And it's seems to sort of have happened to where I am now, you know, and the path that I'm on now. And there's nobody prouder than my mum at the minute. You know, she says to me that, you know, I'm going to say the biggest gift I could have given my mum is her not having any more anxiety inside about me. The phone goes, you know, is he going to be in trouble? Is he going to be locked up? Is he going to be drunk somewhere? But no, now it's like, can you send this money to that person, or can you put this in the bank for me? It's all positive stuff, you know. And that's the biggest gift for me, is to be able to give that to my mum, because I didn't want me to be in a bad place come to the time where my mum might not be there anymore. So yeah, I'm just going to keep it right now, keep it real.
And you've had a lot of there's a lot of dark moments in your life, but you've had a lot of moments in your life in regards to alcohol and in regards to drugs, I believe. Is that true?
Yeah. Do you know what?
Yeah. I mean, take us through your sort of. I want to talk about your singing, but before we get to the singing, I want to sort of get the broad idea of who you were and where it started, the sort of you felt where it went wrong for you in life. Was it your teenage years where the drinking and the alcohol started? And you've been to prison too, I believe, have you?
Do you know what? I've been once. There's going to be a lot of followers and fans of mine, or friends as I like to call them, that are going to see this, but I want this to be real. I've got nothing to hide. My life is great now, and I ended up doing I got 4 months and served 2, and it was actually up in a Liverpool prison. An incident happened when I was up in Crewe Alexander. I actually went to go and watch Joe Longthorne, my idol, at a theatre show, and he cancelled. And the lady I was with, the lady I married after the kid's mum, got into a fight outside a takeaway. We were actually ready to go. The taxi was there. She started fighting a lot of girls. A load of men got involved. I've hit one. And unfortunately, I got in trouble for an incident that happened about 18 months earlier, in a fight in a bar with a bloke. Two blokes, both drunk, wrong time, all that. And I basically got in trouble again when I had 6 months left of a suspended sentence. And and it wasn't, again, even the wife that I was married her, she knew that she was to blame for that situation. It caused it all, you know, and I ended. But that's just to clarify, that's what I went in prison for. But going back again to, that was always going to happen in my life. It was always going to get to that point at some point when I was going to go to prison. And you know what? I've not had an alcoholic drink since, and that was about 2015, because I realised. Sorry.
Best thing to happen to you.
Yeah, without doubt, because I'm not a good drinker. Going back, I mean, to give you a bit of an insight, I went to a school called King's School, Peterborough, probably the best school in Peterborough, and I got into that school via being a cathedral chorister. It's like they would call it the Church of England school, if you like, you know, the cathedral school. And I didn't get accepted first, but then my mum said to me, go for a chorister. And I know now why she tried to push me for that, because she knew that my real father could sing. My real dad had a voice as well. He didn't use it to his potential because he was a drinker and a fighter, and he had quite a big reputation in Peterborough. He's very well known. When I was looking for him, everybody knew him. You know, I'd hear stories before I even met him. But yeah, I went to the school. I was at King's School, and I got in, and I stayed at the boarding house. I was a boarder for 2-3 years, And the reason I was at the boarding house is because the structure of the chorister was a different structure for the day than it was to the normal children. So you'd be out rehearsing in the morning, after school, Saturday, Sunday. It was every day, you know. So, yeah, I went to King's, and I ended up living on my own from a very young age, sort of 16, 17, because of, you know, some of the things that happened at home, the way it was. I think it was just better for me to maybe be in my own place. And I think my mum saw that as a way of trying to help me out, if that makes sense, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they looked after me. She furnished it. And, you know, mums are like furnishing things. They're very good, aren't they?
Yeah.
You cook it, it's like made perfectly, you know. And that's when it all started, really, going a little bit. I mean, when I was younger, I always had the mental thoughts and, you know, I saw it wrong, meaning insecurity and all that, and scared of being in a relationship, scared of letting women near me. Very much like that. I wouldn't let anybody near me. But when I was on my own, I moved out. That's when party time started, you know.
So 16 was pivotal then. I'm just picking that up there. 16. Before that, was there any drugs and alcohol?
No. Drink. I was always a drinker before that time. You know, I was a keen rugby player. There was a couple of incidents where I was pulled up in the street for drinking, drunk and disorderly at like 14. Me and a couple of mates drinking whiskey in lay-bys and underpasses.
Without sort of promoting it, it's just the normal stuff that sort of kids, like I would, maybe it's not normal today. I would have done that as a kid at 14.
Yeah,
drinking a bottle of Old English or something at 14. But the real, I mean, I'm picking it up at 16. There seems to be a pivotal moment in your life where you're starting to branch out by yourself.
Yeah, well, I actually discovered and met my real father when I was 17. You know, and I met him, and you know, I think that side of my family, there's gypsy in the family as well. So my real father's mum was a gypsy. So obviously that I've got a lot of that side there that I'm related to and the various people. Mm-hmm. So I sort of met him and had this big stature of a man that, you know, look, I'd heard so much about his reputation, who he was, and I sat down. He put a big gold ring on me that he bought me, and and I felt really special. Like overwhelming, like excitement, you know. And I ended up. I was living on my own at this time, I think, or just after. So I had my own place. I met my real dad. I was potentially like little Jimmy, if you like, you know, because he was called Jimmy, and I was little Jimmy. Mm-hmm. You know, I'd go around the pubs and that people say, "Do you know who this is? Do you know who that is? That's Jimmy's boy," and all this, you know. And from somebody that grew up a little bit insecure and maybe felt like they were treated a little bit different, I was all of a sudden, I was like them, you know. You know what I mean? I was Jimmy's boy.
You had a sense of meaning, and you had a sense of this is who I am. Yeah.
And you know, I look back now, and I probably feel a little bit ashamed of the way I was from 17 onwards, because I started to create a bit of a what do you call it? A reputation for myself. Mm-hmm. You know, drinking. You know, I would never bully anybody, but I would get drunk, and I would probably want to fight somebody that looked like they wanted to fight as well. You know what I mean? Or I would see somebody that thought they were big and hard, and I'd want to go for them. Do you know what I mean? It was
essentially you're just calling yourself Irish, because that's what people are like over here. They're just, I mean, they just drink, and then it's not like people bully over here. Nobody will get bullied, but you'll have a drink, and if you like to have a fight, you'll pick somebody that wants to have a fight, and then both of you have a fight, and then that's it. It's crazy, like.
But I was only a young lad. I mean, I was 17, 18. Going back to sort of drug and drink. I mean, I was out of the house now. There was no, you can't do that, you can't do this. It was like, right, my place was a party place. You know, all these lads around party. I mean, I've dabbled in most drugs. I mean, I was never an addict, in my opinion. I was just a party animal, if that makes sense. You know, a big thing for me was ecstasy. Mm-hmm. You know, sometimes 10 or 15 tablets at a night I would just swallow. I just couldn't stop.
What year is this?
This would have been, blimey. What am I now? I'm nearly 40, 20, late 90s maybe.
Late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, it won't be the era when the pills were really strong and you could only do one.
Because listen, we've all been through a party scene to a certain degree, and I remember the between the late 90s, early 2000s, it was just chaos. There was just pills everywhere. I remember just pills just absolutely everywhere, and it was just there was that part, and it made you feel good, didn't it? You were out there, the ecstasy gave you the confidence. You were the people that you hated, you loved. It was a love drug essentially, and that feeling you can never replace.
I know now though that I was lost.
Yeah.
You know, when I look back, I was, you know, my friends were my family at that point. You know, I'd go missing and my mum didn't know where I was for weeks and stuff like that. And I wasn't paying my rent, or I ended up not going to work, and I just bumped from job to job. And ultimately I lost my place, and that was just my life at the time. All I cared about was going out and getting wrecked. You know, ecstasy was the thing that I really enjoyed, the way it made me feel. But I was in states, you know, I'd be waking up in shop doorways and stuff like that, tripping out at nightclubs, trying to get in the door, tripping out at the doorman and, you know, gurning and you know, look back now and I'm like, oh, it's crazy. I wouldn't dare do it now.
Well, the effects, the thing about it is the effects of ecstasy, right? When taken the right dosage, it can actually have a very positive effect on your life, just like anything. But if you over sort of take that, it can actually cause a lot of depression. And if you're suffering from any underlying mental health conditions like anxiety or anything like that, it can actually amplify that.
Yeah, and it would have, because, you know, I would go out and have a party like that, but then for the next 3 weeks after that, you'd be in a dark place. And you get to an age as you grow up where you realise that, and that's what makes you stop. You think, I don't want to feel like that anymore. I don't want to feel like shit for 3 weeks after I've had it, you know. I used to fall into the house and I couldn't go to the toilet, you know. You couldn't wee, like.
Crazy, man. You know, I know that's the thing. That's the way it was, though. When people lived like that, and people would have lived like that for 3 or 4 years. But the sad thing is, some people done that for most of their life, and then all their friends fell out of that, and they're still stuck in that. And they can't get out of it. That's
what's sad. Yeah, and I've lost friends, people that I used to party with, and it's like, yeah, it does. It makes you realise, you know. I mean, a good friend of mine, his name was Andy. 10 years. I always had my best friends were about 10 years older than me. Two good friends of mine, Andy and Lee. And one was from Newcastle, one was from Bradford. And Andy was a drinker. And at 47, he died. The partying stopped becoming fun with him. He ended up sort of starting to dig at his mates and starting to get loud and starting, you know, you would like get a little bit, not scared, but you'd be anxious around him. And we all sort of fell apart a little bit, and me and Lee stuck together, but Andy ended up just going his own way. But from what I gathered, it died a couple of years ago. Pure drink. He just never stopped. He just never stopped. You know, it was the Frosty Jack, it's the white cider, sitting there drinking that every day. And apparently he was in the hospital still thinking he was having a party.
That's crazy. There's so many people that have fell down that route, and it's so bad because there's people out there with so much potential in their life that it was just wasted. They just didn't get away from the party scene. It's okay to party, it's okay to do these things, but it's knowing when to cut that off and sort of kickstart your life into better things. So
sad.
17, you've have this sense of meaning. You've found your, as you say, your real dad, your real father.
I found my real dad at 17. And that was it, yeah. Sort of was drinking for a good 8, 9, 10 years around an area where he was more known and where everybody I knew and related to was in this area. So that's where I drank. And yeah, that was my life for a long while, drinking and partying, and just that was it. Trying to think where it changed, really. I mean, I lived with multiple friends in houses. I had a stint when I actually moved to Benidorm for about 9 months with 2 of my friends. They flew back after 2 weeks, and I ended up finding a job in a bar, sort of singing, doing a few songs in the night time, if you like. Because I had to use my voice out of desperation. If I want to be here, I've got to push myself. And even though I could sing when I was younger, on the karaoke's and things like that, I never did anything else with it. But I always knew I had it in me. But it's like my mum says now, then wasn't your time, James. You would have just pissed it up the wall, you know. Now's your time. You're in a better place.
The singing, that's what I'm saying. Your mum knew you were a great singer, and you knew you were a great singer. What held you back from just releasing it? Was there something always
scared?
Just scared, yeah.
Absolutely scared, mate. I don't like attention. I don't like being a centre of attention.
Mm-hmm.
If people look at me, I think they're taking a piss or saying things rather than, you know, they could be in awe of me when I'm singing a song, but I'm thinking something else. You know, that was what was going on back then more, you know, but then again, back then I was smoking weed, I was partying all the time. So there was no place, my head wasn't anywhere near how it should have been to even understand how bad it was, you know, how much of it was the cause of drugs or drink and how much of it was just me as a person.
There's a singer that talked about this, I forget his name, and it was great. He sort of talked about the same thing as yourself. I'll forget his name. I'll put it in the comments section. It was a great quote. He said, "Our anxieties on stage are a reflection of what we think of ourselves, and it's nobody else that's thinking that. It's actually ourselves, that are thinking that, and it's our inner voice, that negative voice that's telling you that these people are thinking this. That's actually yourself, and these people are not thinking that."
Yeah, it's really difficult. And not, you know, more so with females because of the situation I've been in relationships and stuff. You know, if the females looks at me, I could never make eye contact. I always struggle to look at them in the eye.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really struggle, even to this day. But I'm learning to try and embrace, you know, praise and goodness. But yeah, like I say, I've had my voice there, but I've not used it. I've always struggled for money in my life. I've always used to look at singers on the stage and think, you know, I can do that better than them, but I'll never be able to. I'll never be able to do that. You know, and I ended up having this bitterness inside me, jealousy of people. And I didn't want to get to being an old man and thinking what I could have done,
Mm-hmm.
how I've wasted my life, how I've had to struggle. You see singers going out and earning decent money in a weekend that can't sing like I can, you know, that I'm aware of now. That's not an ego thing. You will never get any egotistical comments from me. It's just I've got a later in life self-belief that I'm understanding what I've got.
Well, the proof's in the pudding, man. I've just as I say, your show rate, we've played that at the beginning of the podcast, and this is pre-recorded, so I would have attached that to the start of this podcast. And your voice is absolutely fantastic, and that's not me blowing smoke up your ass. I'm generally speaking, if you were shit, I would say, and you're a fantastic singer. Brilliant vocalist, and you can really essentially you can sing anything. That's some people
say that. The day when I'll agree when I can sing Nessun Dorma.
Like we're living in an era now where there's a lot of people, like, I suppose it's always been like that, where they sing and they've got sort of like just one sort of niche that they have, and that's good. Like you have there was a girl, a very modern singer. She's quite a young girl, Billie Eilish, and everybody thought that she just whispered whenever she sung, and then she'd done that James Bond theme music, and she just opened up and she just blew everybody out of the water. And it's great to see that, and it's great to see sort of a range of different singing that you do. Can you take us then? Let's talk. I want to hear about your singing, and I want to hear about where your first performance was.
Of course. Well, I mean, this is the main story. This is why I want to tell my story. You know, you've obviously had a little bit of my backstory, which, you know, life's life, but I'll just forget about that now. Let's talk about now.
Mm-hmm.
And when my real dad died about 3 or 4 years ago, lung cancer, and my idol, Joe Longthorne, died, who's my hero vocalist. You know, if you don't know who he is, check him out, because there was nobody in the world that could sing like him as far as I'm concerned. And his influence is in me just from listening to him for so long and having a voice to be able to try and sing songs. My mum had a pub once, and we had a party in the back room, and I was setting up the disco gear and that. And while nobody was there, and I was actually working behind the bar on a Saturday afternoon, I put a song on, and it was called Hurt. Now, Elvis did a version of Hurt. Joe Longthorne did a much better version. And I just sang it first time through. Never sang it in my life. And I recorded it with a phone on the speaker, and I just blurred it out. And then I posted it in a Joe Longthorne group as a tribute on Facebook. This was the first time I'd ever publicly showed myself online. It was a big deal, this, for me. You know, stepping out. This was September 2019.
Wow, quite recent.
Okay, yeah, 3 years ago. And this was me stepping outside of my bubble, showing myself on social media, which I'd never done. The death of my real father and the death of Joe Longford is what made me do that. Right, that's the only thing.
Mm-hmm.
Two bad things produced a good thing. If that makes sense. And because what happened was, it was posted in the group, and for somebody that's never experienced any real positive feedback from multiple people, it go viral, but it got about 500 shares, maybe 1,000 likes, loads of comments, every one of them fantastic. And I couldn't believe it. I could not believe what it'd done to me. I felt like I'd been struck with a lightning bolt of confidence. Like, bang, there you go. And it was like a realization. I've got shivers now talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a realization of what you have. It changed my life, that video.
Your potential being recognized. That's what it is.
But recognizing more than anybody else.
Yeah,
me.
Yeah.
Me realizing, wow. My mum would say, like, I've always told you that, James. I've always told you. But I can't.
The thing about it is, and I think I know what you mean. It's like your mum's always going to tell you that, even if you're shit, right?
Exactly.
It's just what mums do. They want to fill you full of confidence, and maybe your granny or your some family members. Your uncle's going to say, "Listen, you're shit." Everybody has an uncle that tells you the brutal truth, but to be told that from complete strangers that you don't know, that have no personal investment in you, that have just heard this for the first time, it's just hit their ears, for them to think, wow, this guy has something. The confidence boost that must give you. And you see, you're getting shivers just thinking about it. I could just imagine what that feels like. It's a fantastic thing. And was it that moment then was crucial for you to take the step into the singing world?
It took another two to 3 years after that. I mean, I missed a little bit out, which I'll just go back to. I was part of a Motown trio. When my son, about 15 years ago, there was an advert for a Motown trio. And we were like, we ended up touring around the Ponting camps as a trio, and we'd rotate a few songs and run a big high stage out the way. And, I earned a little bit of money on the weekends and stuff like that. But I was still terrified when I did it, even as a free piece. The big thing for me was I always knew I was good enough to be solo. I was always good enough to be the main man on my own, earning the full wage, not splitting it, and et cetera, et cetera. So when I went to prison that time, that's when it ended with the band, because I didn't tell the band owner that I was going to be in trouble and go down, because it was quite hard. It was quite highly strung, and me being a nervy character that didn't like confrontation, I never had the guts to tell him. I just hid it and put it off and put it off and put it off to the day where I knew I was going to court. And I said to Mum, I've written a letter. If I don't come back, send him the letter, give him the letter. And the letter said, by the way, I've been sent to prison for 2 months. And I sort of left him in the shit.
Yeah.
Because it was a trio, which was all of a sudden a duo. Mm-hmm. And we fell apart, and I've never spoke to him since. That's what happened there. So going back to where I was, that video, years later, I posted the video. And then I thought, wow, I need to do this again. I need to post another video. I like this. And I ended up setting up a page, Jimmy James Entertainments, which is my Facebook page. And I was posting the odd song in my living room with like the bare wall, PA system. Just me and just dressed in, normal clothes. Started posting the odd video. And then apparently it progressed from, and I'm talking, me singing in public is real difficult. I would never have done it. I'd have put it off for the rest of my life. It's all right being with three of you when you're sharing the people look in and you're up on a high stage and you're on and then off. This is me presenting an evening, for hours, keeping the crowd going, having a bit of banter. I always used to fear talking on the mic and things like that. But so basically I was doing these videos, and then lockdown hit.
Yeah.
Whenever it hit, I don't know. Can't remember. But lockdown hit. And I ended up being on furlough for about 2 years in this house by myself. And at this point, I will bring something up just to make it apparent, is that out of all the drugs I played about with in my younger youth, the one thing that remained with me was cannabis. You know, I was always dabbled in cannabis, always. I could never ever do anything in moderation. It was always extreme. Weed, you know, a couple of quid in a fruit machine would end up being 80. You know, that's what it was like. So,
yeah.
Although I was doing these clips and showing myself behind the camera, you know, I had a bit of a cannabis problem. You know,
can I just ask you a question? I'm not going off topic, but
yeah,
did that hit your mental health really, really bad?
I would say it did, because I've always suffered with depression. I'm on antidepressants every day of my life and have been. I don't get depressed, but I just take one, and I'm happy taking one. That's my life. You know, you get a repeat prescription and the doctor say, you know, have you thought about counselling? I'm not interested. I'm 40 years of age. Let me take one tablet a day and leave me alone. I'm happy like that. You know, that's my attitude.
Yeah, I get that, man. I get that. I understand. Like that's you know, you just want to get on with your life and just pursue whatever you're trying to pursue in your life, your kids, your career and stuff. There's a lot of people that the misconception of cannabis and mental health. Listen, I'm an advocate for sort of free the weed, but at the same time, don't free the weed to the kids to the point where you're an undeveloped brain smoking weed and it's not developing. I think like 21 to 25 is a good age to free the weed at. Do you know what I mean? Because cannabis has a massive impact on, you know, just the studies that they're finding on development with children and psychosis, schizophrenia, and things like that. Loads of people are locked up under. If you've got I've got an underlying mental health condition, I can't smoke cannabis. Every time I smoke cannabis, I start thinking people are coming after me, and I start thinking that, you know, people are trying to kill me. Do you know what I mean? And I can't even look you in the eye. I've got that much anxiety, you know.
I've tried quitting cannabis on a couple of occasions before, and what would happen was, you know, I'd end up buying a £10 bag of it. I would have a couple of drags of a single Rizzler, and then throw it out the window and have this fear come over me. Oh no, what have I done? What have I done? What I can't. And I'd throw the 10 bag out the window. I'd throw it away. I'd do that 50 times. Throw it out the window. £10, throw it out the window. Don't want it. Don't want it. But then within a month, you're back on it harder than you were before. You know, my usage was. I mean, so many people are going to be surprised with what I'm saying on this podcast, but like I say, it's real. I've got nothing to hide, and I've got no shame. You know, I'd buy an 8 for weed, and every night I'd want to quit, but the next day I'd buy more again. Every night I'd quit, next day I'd buy more. I would have to smoke the 8th until it was gone. I'd stay awake to smoke. You know, I'd get up and go to the toilet in the middle of the night for a wee, and I'd roll one at 3 a.m, 2 hours before I had to be up for work. I struggled to get out of bed. I used every excuse in the book at work, you know, and I had a problem. And it was, I don't care what anybody says, I felt like it was a physical addiction. I'd start craving in the afternoon and feel sick. I could not see a way out of cannabis. But we'll get to a bit more to that. But I just want to
I have to apologize if you can hear knocking in the background. Where I am right now, there is a guy next door who's doing my head and was knocking on the bloody door with a hammer just as I go to do these things. And I've spoke to him, tell him the times, and I think he just does it whenever. He
probably watches the podcast back laughing because he can hear him in the background. I think that's what it is.
Well, he'll not be laughing tomorrow whenever I confront him. But we will talk about the cannabis.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to make sure I threw that in because that's a big factor of where I'm going with this story.
Yeah.
But back to where we were. Yeah. You know, lockdown's hit. I'm in this living room for 2 years by myself, single, smoking copious amounts of weed, and posting videos. Blah blah blah. So I've ended up going from posting videos to eventually going live on Facebook, doing a live show. And
wow,
and this is a big deal for me again, doing a live show. But it becomes when you do something that you're not used to doing, you step out your comfort zone. You sort of become addicted again. You think, I like that, and you do it more and more and more and more.
Yeah.
And I ended up doing. You know, I've gone from having just a phone and a microphone and my PA system to having an iRig that I go from my mixer into my phone. I've got a digital system. I've got the backdrop behind me, a big wedding drape. This was for my backdrop for when I went live and did my live shows.
Yeah.
And the moral of the story is, over lockdown, I've raised a Facebook page to nearly 11,000 followers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
11,000 followers out of nothing. built from the ground up. Something I've never done in my life, built anything like that from the ground up. You know, I've never been so proud of what I've achieved there.
And the reception you received from the audience, I mean, like, it just must have been amazing. And whenever would you do your live? Because during lockdown, everybody needed some form of entertainment. Either it was podcasts, either it was music or whatever, movies. Would there be many people tuning in to see these lives?
Yeah. I mean, I've often had over 100 viewers. Wow. I remember New Year's Eve 2020 or 2021. I think it was touch and go for a venue. They'd offered me 200 quid to come down and do a solo spot on New Year's Eve, which was pretty low for anything on a New Year's Eve. But I didn't do it, and I ended up doing my PayPal link, PayPal me link on my New Year's Eve show that I did in my living room, and I had 500 quid. So, you know, my my son, bless him, I think he had the phone. It was like ting, ting, ting. You know, I looked at it at the end, I was like, wow, I couldn't believe it. And that was just one of many. I mean, I don't like using the PayPal link. It's something I don't use. I always say my shows are for free, but there's people that actually tell me off for not doing it. That's how, you know, people actually have a go for me not doing it. They want to give me something. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I've had numerous things sent through the post to me. Some of these, I like to call them friends. I don't like saying the word fans or followers because they're more than that to me. They mean the world. They've been behind me on this journey for the past 3 years. Some of them, you know, and a lot of them are, should we say, a little bit older, if you like. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I care for them dearly. I've got one lady that sent me through religious things in the post, you know, crosses from my fridge, and because they just want me to succeed. Mm-hmm. And it's really heartfelt, and I care and love each and every one of them really, really dearly. But over lockdown, like I say, there was multiple shows that I would do in my living room. I ended up releasing a CD, which I've got. This is my first CD there, which is From Me to You. And
I will post all the links. I'll do a wee short video before this. Before the podcast anyway, so I'll attach it. And all links, the Jimmy stuff can be found in the comment section of this video. Just go over it, his albums, his social medias, where you can watch him, where you can buy any of his stuff. I'll leave all those links in the comment section of this video.
Great. So yeah, I did the CD during the lockdown. The long-awaited CD, as my mum said. Mum posted a picture saying, "Finally." But I think to this day, I've probably sold. I don't want to give away how much I've sold, really, but there's hundreds. We're in the hundreds that I've sold. Got CD 2 out. Same again, hundreds. Yeah, all from the living room.
That's fantastic. That's like to do that from your living room is like, it's okay. Okay, doing this podcast, right? You can do that. I can do this on my phone, right? Doesn't take much skill. Just talking to somebody, maybe learn how to speak, social cues and things like that. But to sing and to be recognized and to make money and to have to have an album, I mean, it must be a great sense of accomplishment in your life.
It is. It really is. It really is. You know, I've realised that I am a walking business, if you like. You know, I can create revenue. I have. You know, I do not need to struggle anymore, you know. Yeah. And it's just took me all my life to go through the battles and the struggles and strains to get here finally. And I firmly believe lockdown was meant for me. Lockdown is because I wouldn't have done any of that. If I was going to work every day, you know, it wouldn't have happened. But I had 2 years in this house to be born and to post the stuff I was doing and to get to get known and to build my page up with all new people. And there was a group that was developed over lockdown. It's called Rock the Lockdown. Loads of musicians. There's about 850,000 people in it. It just went mental. And I posted a song in there, and I think it went, I'd say, viral, potentially. There's bigger posts in there that have gone bigger, but for me, it was the biggest one I've had. It was like 3,500 likes, I think 1.2 thousand shares.
Wow.
And when you sit there and your phone's going ting, 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 ting.
About 200,000 views. That's about just.
Oh, yeah.
300,000 views.
Yeah, it reached about 250,000, yeah. But then you're always chasing that again, aren't you? And I've had a couple of big ones since then as well, similar numbers. But again, that was a milestone for me. And you know what? The song that hit that, I was going to delete because I was unhappy with it. And that's happened to me so many times, but the song I'm not happy with is the one that do best. again, because of the way I see it, I'm not happy with that. I'm not, it's amazing.
But I go back to that. That's yourself. You're looking at yourself. That's what the anxiety is your perception of yourself isn't what everybody else sees you as. So essentially, it doesn't exist. That negativity doesn't exist. You create it yourself. But at the same time, it helps because then you're on the road to perfection. You will perfect things. A person that doesn't have that self-doubt, that little bit of anxiety, to sort of, to perfect something to make it perfect. And essentially those people will make it, but the people that don't have that don't tend to make it. And it's worked for you. And, it just shows you something that you're not happy with. The world thought it was perfect to make it go viral.
Do you know what? I mean, so now going back to the story and there's obviously more that comes. Now in my mind, I'm in a situation where, great, I've got a big following online, but I still can't stand on a stage by myself in front of the public. I still can't do that. I've got to accept in my head that I'm an online singer, and that'll be me because I can't do it. I can't do it. No matter what happens, I cannot do it.
Why?
Because I was scared. Scared of being looked at, scared of being humiliated, scared of doing something that made me look stupid in public, And obviously, again, like I said before, I'm smoking lots of weed as well while this is happening in lockdown, while I'm posting these videos. So on one hand, I'm creating something really special, but on the other hand, I've got this deep, dark secret that I know is a problem in the background.
What can we do to help you get over that barrier, or do we not press the issue? Do we just don't press the issue on it? Or would you, if I said to you now, I've heard you singing and your acoustics, if you sang in a hall, the acoustics would be perfect for you, especially with a person with your voice. Would that help? Is that the type of confidence you're looking for? Is it a deeper fear?
It's like you're being focused on, you're a focus. I don't like being the center of attention. Imagine having a talent and not liking being the center of attention. It's you have to battle through that to be able to do what you need to do. It's
the faces. Is it for you? Is it the faces because there's going to be a crowd when you're doing it online? It's just a camera and you can just see the number, whatever it is, 100, 200 people that are there.
Well,
600 people. What I mean, I can tell you wholeheartedly now, right? Whether this helps you or not, if listening to your music and listening to the way you sing, I can guarantee that if you sang in a hall, mate, you're going to get a very, very good reception.
Yeah. Well, this is. I mean, what I'm saying here now to you is past tense. It's developed on from then. This was me in lockdown again. Like, say, what do I do now? I've pushed my voice as far as I can. Now all that's left to do is actually do it. I've built my page up. I've got the following. People love me. It's brilliant. Wow, what's going on? Now, where do I go from here? I've got this problem, this addiction, this cannabis addiction, where it's going to hold me back, where it's making me paranoid. It's affecting my thinking. And I'm waking up, first thing I do, going to bed, last thing I do. I used to go to sleep with a joint going out on me. I sit there like that, sleep, smoking like that, fall asleep on me. I'd wake up and realise there was one underneath me. I didn't realise I'd been smoking. It was that bad. I was on my own, mental health, 2 years in the house by myself, single, no routine, not eating. I lost 3 stone in lockdown. I went down to 15 stone because all I cared about was smoking and not eating.
You see, this is where I like to get a little bit technical when it comes to the cannabis issue, right? Because I know I've got lots of friends. Cannabis is everywhere in Ireland, right? It's everywhere in England. It's everywhere around the world. Some people can smoke cannabis and some people are good with cannabis. And the relationship that people have with cannabis, sometimes it helps people and sometimes it doesn't, right? Now, you seem to be a bit like me. The paranoia gets too much. The mental health issues get too much. So, and the anxiety. Some people have anxiety, smoke cannabis, and anxiety goes away. I don't know how that happens because whenever I smoke cannabis, we could be talking right now. I would have to be hiding under the bed, and that's an underlying mental health issue. Yeah, and that's what you have. You've got an underlying mental health issue that cannabis draws out of your personality. Where you have other people that can smoke it and they're fine. They're not addicted. They don't have the addictive personality. They can get over. They can have a spliff at the end of the night. They don't feel like they need it. They can go off it whenever they want. I've even heard of such a thing as a functional heroin addict, where They're not actually addicted to it, but they can actually take it and leave it as they go. There's a professor in America. He was a Harvard professor who would, for 25 years, would smoke heroin with his wife and have a glass of wine of pure heroin. So there's these people with different personalities. So the cannabis issue isn't just solely, oh, cannabis is bad or cannabis is good. Cannabis is good for some people. Do you know what I
mean? I love cannabis. I love the smell. I love the taste. But I know, after trying to quit multiple times before, that I can't control it.
Yep.
It's all or nothing. Okay. Now, where this story is going to now is, you know, all throughout my life, I mean, I was in the cathedral, I was a chorister. Oftentimes when I was upset as a child, I would go and sit in the cathedral with myself just because I wanted peace. You know, I would always ask, you know, religious people, if you like, I would always ask them how they had that calmness about them. Why are you so calm? And, you know, I was always envious of, I wanted to be like that. I wanted that calmness in my life. So I've kind of always been searching, if you like, for some sort of answer and some sort of, you know, understanding, you know, I want that, you know. And throughout lockdown, I remember there was one time I was crying my eyes out in the room. I was a mess. I was smoking. I was a mess. I knew I was a mess, but I was singing and doing the good things, but still had this problem. And I knew it was a problem. I couldn't see a way out. And it sounds really sad because it's not heroin, it's cannabis, but I could not see a way out.
There's no difference, man. Addiction is addiction.
Yeah, I couldn't. So I firmly believe I had a spiritual awakening. This is the big part of this story for me. And, you know, the night before I was sort of like, I was begging my real dad who died to give me the power to use my voice. Give me the power to use my voice. Let me do, and even God, you know, at this point I was like, do I believe, don't I believe? I've never really been one or the other, but always searched and couldn't understand how Christian people or whatever are always at peace and calm and kind and loving, which the majority are. And I went to bed crying my eyes out on the settee, actually. And then, no word of a lie, at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, my music turned itself on, right? No word of a lie. And I was waking up, I could hear this beautiful song. And normally I'd just ignore it and go to sleep, but I had to get up and listen to this song to find out what it was. You know when you hear a good song and you love it, but you never actually can hear it again because you don't know what it's called and you can't. One random day, 10 years down the line, you think, I remember that song. I love that song. I had to get up to know what this song was. And the song was called The Answer to Everything, right, by a guy called David Alexander. I never knew the song. I know now that it's a very popular song and lots of people know it. But this song was sent to me, right? The words and lyrics in this song, and I've sent them to you on the email if you read through the lyrics. You know, don't ask me a mountain of questions. You know, don't ask me a mountain of questions. Basically, the moral of the song is just love me and I'll love you. You know, if you love me, really love me as I love you, that's the answer. People will see this and they'll think, you know, just
no. There's a simplicity to that. There's a simplicity to that, and I totally get what you're saying.
I'm telling you, you know, people say, oh, the radio might have been off or whatever, it might turn itself on and da. No, people have testimonies. They get, you know, so many people across the world where God has visited them or something's visited them, and they say everything they explain, the way they say it is exactly how I felt it and how I explained it to other people. Like some sort of calmness and love or whatever been entered in me. Honestly. And
no, I believe you. I'm just going to be honest with you, right? You know, obviously you'll get people saying that, you know, there could have been this. Of course, there could have been anything. There could be a million possibilities for it. But as a person, you know a scenario, you know a situation. You're in that situation, and it's the feeling, the tension, the air, the way you're looking. You just know, and there's nobody going to tell you any different that was something else. And there's many of account of people having these. I don't know. It's not a premonition, but it's like it's a life-changing spiritual moment. Yeah. And that's what it is.
Yeah. And after the song, I got up at 5 a.m, And I've got a laptop with all sometimes I do karaoke and discos, and I've got a big file of karaoke tracks and all my stuff set up as well from the videos. And I put the song in, and I had it, and I sat here at 5 a.m. singing it. I think one after the other, 10, 12 times in a row, crying my eyes out singing this song. Right. And then the next day I got up, and it was like I had this urgency in me, like I'd been ignorant for so long about the truth. And I felt like my house had a light beaming on it. I felt like my house had a light beaming on it. Mm-hmm. And I had an all of a sudden urgency to learn the truth. And I was downloading, or I was watching every single Jesus documentary I could watch. I bought a Bible, I bought a cross. I was reaching out to pastors to explain what I was feeling like, what was going on. And I just had this really ignorant feeling that I'd been ignorant. But I should have known this. I should have known, Mm-hmm. And I've got a church now, and I speak to people, and when I first was going, I tell them the story. It's like it's nothing new to them. It's like they were just there waiting for us to walk through the door.
Isn't that weird? Isn't it? It's not weird, but isn't that it's such a beautiful thing that you've experienced that.
Really is, man. It really and I mean, that was a big thing for me. And then for a fair few months in lockdown, I was just had this obsession, And my family, I've had a bit of a dodgy family, if you like. Both sides, both dads. I've been brought up around dodginess.
Yeah.
For me to speak to mum and say, I think there's a God thing going on. It's like I've got a big deal. And obviously me being a bit of a rogue as well. But you see this, you see a lot of rogues change, whether they do it for real or not, and I've gone to God or whatever. But it brought a calmness to me. I was excited. And, but then going forward, after after 6 months of lockdown, it sort of dwindled away a little bit. That feeling dwindled away a little bit. And it was like losing somebody. It was really difficult. Mm-hmm. Oh, where's that gone? Where's it gone? That's how it felt.
Yeah.
And moving on to another big point of the story then, one day, I think I was taken off furlough and actually started working from home. I'm actually in sales as well. I do a bit of sales, telesales, the company I've been with for 9 years, selling telematics, vehicle tracking and things like that. So I was working from home. Obviously, again, I was having these morning. I mean, I hope nobody from work sees these, but I was having these online meetings in the morning. I had a joint on the go with a coffee at breakfast, behind the team meetings, in the morning. So bang on it.
I don't mind if that, I don't mind if it's okay to say these things for yourself, if that's going to sort of incriminate yourself in any way, shape, or form.
What? I'm a reformed mate. This is the past. So people want to be funny about things that have happened, and I don't think.
I mean, for yourself, I don't want to jeopardize. If you're
no.
Yeah.
I think So, but as I was saying, I'm just explaining to you that this was still preeminent. The smoking. I'm back at work. I've not said, right, no more weed. I get back to work. I'm still in this cycle of a mess. But now I've actually got to try and do my job after 2 years of sitting there smoking. I can't do it. I can't ring people on the phone and trying to sell to people. They're talking me down on the phone straight away. I'm not interested. Okay, no problem. But normally you would fight for the win on the phone. You would go for it. No, why is that, sir? Why? I was just being talked down. I was no good. Mm-hmm. And one morning, my laptop didn't work. I banged the table on my desk. My black coffee went all over the desk. My laptop wouldn't work. I couldn't log in. And I literally picked the computer chair up to my desk and threw it through my living room door, threw it. And it was from then on, I was crying solidly for 3 weeks. I had an emotional breakdown. And I couldn't stop crying. Mum was on the phone. Everybody was worried about me. I was desperate. I created all this good stuff, but I was a mess. I knew I couldn't get out of this mess. And in the state that I was in, I spoke to the company I was with, who was I'm lucky enough, my younger brother, who's actually 3 or 4, he's about 7 years younger than me, he was actually my boss at the sales company. And lucky for me, really, because he's looked after me in ways like other companies probably wouldn't. And I put everything on the table to him, my family. I said, look, they knew I smoked. I said, you don't understand how bad this is. I said, I can't get out of it. I said, I'm smoking 2 hours before I get for work. I'm spending. I was spending about £40 a day on weed, and I didn't even, I was paying my bills and everything first, but then I was spending what I had left, and then I was ticking. I was just going downwards. It was just.
And then you weren't eating, as you say, you weren't eating, so
no.
Your health was going downhill.
Yeah, people were saying they'd put weight on in lockdown. I'd lost 3 stone. So I put the life on the line, and not my life, but whatever. But I said, this is the situation. I've got a problem. I need help. I actually said I need help. I can't do this anymore. And out of the blue, somebody presented me a solution, which was a Christian rehab house, rehabilitation place in Loughborough, free of charge. People don't realise these places exist. I think you've got to pay £10,000 for a rehab. It's a Christian house. I was guided to this Christian house, so I applied. And I mean, at this point, I was smoking. I mean, I had a mattress on the floor in my living room. I wasn't even sitting in the room. I was laying on the mat and I was smoking and just flicking it on the floor. I was a mess, like a junkie. And at the same time, I'd be doing a live show on singing, and people wouldn't have a clue what was going on in my real life.
Wow.
It's the first time people are actually going to hear this. They're going to be like, Collie gobsmacked, some people, to realise how bad it was. But yeah, I applied for this place. My brother, God bless him, put me back on furlough for 2 months. Took me from work and put me back on furlough. So this place offered a 9-month program. I couldn't do 9 months because I've got my own house, my kids, a job. So between me and my brother, we had agreed that I'd go away for 8 weeks. He put me back on furlough for 2 months, and I'll just go and get away from the cycle that I'm in and go. And I knew in my own head, all I needed to do was disappear and just get out of this cycle that I'm in. I was strong enough to know what I needed to do. And the time come, and I disappeared to this Christian rehab house in Loughborough. Went into the first phase where there was 12 blokes, heroin addicts, alcoholics, whatever. I've always been a good character, caring, and I used to cry my eyes out in there speaking to some of these guys, listening to their stories. And you got all these heroin addicts and alcoholics in there. And the only person that's crying his eyes out every day is the cannabis smoker, me, the one at the back crying his eyes out. I
think there's other stuff going on there though, because it's the cannabis. You've got the addiction to the cannabis, right? You've got this. I know people are going to say, "Oh, you can't get addicted to cannabis." No, everybody's different. You can get addicted to anything, right? Yep. You know what I mean? So, and you find this place, this Christian, and what's really strange is you've been guided to this place after having these experiences, these sort of spiritual experiences.
Yep.
That is quite a strange thing.
It's all. I believe the spiritual awakening of mine first started back in September 2019 when I first posted that video. I think that was the starting point. And then from then on, I was going to develop myself through lockdown. Lockdown was granted to me. 2 years of trying to learn my trade indoors, get going. And then I was meant to have a breakdown. And I was meant to go to this place and then come out of this place the other side and carry on my dream, which is what I've done.
Well, first off, can you break down the process of how they rehabilitate people?
Do you know what? They have 3 phases, phase 1, 2, and 3. Now, I only did phase 1 because I left. I went in there under not false pretenses, but I went in there with them thinking that you're there for the duration of the whole program. But really, I just went there knowing I just had a place to get away from, just a place to go and do what I need to do. So phase 1 is like the detox phase, if you like. You're there for about 8 to 10 weeks. 12 bedrooms, there's jacuzzi outside. We used to sit in jacuzzi just to relax because people are coming down, aren't they? They're withdrawing. They need, that's why the stuff was there. But we would rotate jobs. One day you'd be cooking. They used to love my fried breakfast on a Saturday. I was cooking 13 of us a big fry up. Literally, there was that's how you'd live there. What they did was they ended up claiming universal credit in your name for their house. So that's how they paid for you, basically. You would sign all your benefits to them. I wasn't on benefits. I was still earning on furlough. So it was always a worry for me while I was there thinking, oh, what's going to happen here? I should be here. You know what I mean? But I thought my health is more important than anything. Just do it. Whatever happens in the end. If I end up having to pay somebody back or get done, even if it done for benefit fraud, who cares? My health is more important. So I just used the place as I needed to do. That was pretty much it. You'd have a routine. You'd get up every day, every morning. We'd come downstairs. We'd talk through a Bible verse every day. Go around the room and say what that meant to us. I needed this the Christian Bible side of it. I needed this was there for me. You know, we would worship doing the Christian worship music in the morning, and then we'd have like a teaching from somebody that was an ex-alcoholic or something like that would give us their life and tell us what's happened to them. And then phase 2 was more about, from what I gather, is learning about why we do what we do. You know, why we do, trying to go more internal to fix the problem. You know, I'm lucky. I had a good upbringing. I had, you know, a mum and a dad, regardless of any situation. You know, I wasn't, luckily enough, I wasn't sexually abused. I wasn't beaten like some of these poor souls are that are heavily addicted on drugs. I hate people that look down at these sort of people. I despise them people. You know, I can't, you know, I walk around the town centre every time I'm there trying to do good, sitting down with homeless people, filling out the online form to get them in the place where I went. I do it multiple times, constantly. And again, that's something I need to do. It's something in me makes me do it. I've got that heart in me. That's just the way I am.
You're spreading that, you see. Now, what that is you're spreading the help. It doesn't matter if it's religious, spirituality, whatever. You're spreading help for these people to get their feet back on the ground. Sometimes that's all it takes. Yeah, exactly that. I mean, this is. I mean, you had a guest on a few weeks back, Ben. This is where I met Ben at this place. Yes, Ben. Yeah. Ben's a great guy. Like.
Yeah. I mean, we stay in contact. We had some dark humour in the jacuzzi on night times. It was quite a good laugh.
Isn't it so strange how both you and Ben? I know it's not a coincidence. You have met in this place, but he's living a very spiritual life, and you're having the spiritual. And both of you have had. Okay, his story's different from yours, and we're not here to talk about Ben, but it's really strange that how it's like you're both on two spiritual journeys.
Do you know what? Out of 12 people that went into this place, I think 10 relapsed, and me and Ben didn't. Without putting anybody else down, Ben's quite headstrong. He was in there. He went in there knowing what he was going to do, just like I did.
Yeah,
he was so funny because he was outspoken in there. He would do things differently. You know, we were talking about the Bible, and he would say he's Muslim. He was quite a funny. He would be individual.
Yeah.
But we had, and I was sad when I left because they were going to move me up to phase 2, and I thought, you know what? I only came for 8 weeks, and at this point, I've been there 7 weeks. I thought, do I go to phase 2? And go through all the rigmarole again of going through filling forms out and probably get found out that I'm still working on the outside? Or do I just tell them the truth and leave now after 7 weeks? And I left there and then. And I walked out. I cried when I left because as soon as you walk out that back door and you're on your own, it's like, wow, you feel like you've been let out of this protective bubble, Christian bubble that you're in there. You're on your own now.
Mm-hmm.
And I got the train home. And when I came back, I didn't see my kids for a long while because I'd gone away to this place, and I was told, you know, because you've come off a substance, it's not right and all that, which I sort of understand, but nothing was explained to me. It wasn't explained to me when I went.
It's cannabis. I get there was an addiction, but there's a difference between being addicted to cannabis and heroin. With look, a heroin
exactly, I know. Yeah,
like could do anything at any. I don't want to say anything bad because I know that there's people who were addicted to heroin that relapsed. But you know, I spoke to one guy, Colin Myers, and he owns the Central Club podcast. Great guy, fantastic guy. I'd love to pass you on to this guy. You actually should go on his podcast. He does face-to-face meetings in Wales. A great guy, brilliant, and he's an ex heroin addict and crack addict, and this guy, you wouldn't even know it. And you know, the things that he done in the mind frame of, you know, the little techniques that he would do just to sort of get that heroin, to get that crack, and try to protect, say to the people that he was surrounded by that I'm not this person, but he was still looking to get that fix, you know. But there's a difference between that, and there's a difference between being addicted to cannabis, because
I agree.
Do you get what I'm saying? So how did that feel then to come out of that, and you want to see your kids, and you've got all this raw emotion?
Do you know what? It's what nearly made me relapse within the first week of being out. You know, I came out, and I forgot to add is when I went into the rehab, I also left my antidepressants at the door. So I've walked in, and after being on antidepressants since the age of 17, I left that at the door. I left cigarettes at the door, cannabis at the door, I was an emotional wreck. Now, I was on citalopram, which I've heard not good things about. I was on the highest dosage of citalopram when I went in, and I struggled after about a month. I thought, I need to go back on some tablets. I can't do this. So I ended up going on 20 milligram of sertraline, which is the lowest dosage of another type. So my balance was a little bit out wayward. So then when I left, I'm back at the house now. I'm getting ignored. I'm not being told you can't see your kids for a little while or whatever. I'm just being ignored. So no answers. Nobody's telling me what's going on. I didn't have enough dosage of the antidepressants either, so I was a bit wobbly. I was suicidal, if I'm honest. I was suicidal. I even scared my mum. Put my mum through some horrible stuff that first month of being out, should we say, because I didn't know what was going on. Nobody was explaining anything. I wanted to see my kids, you know. And I ended up upping my dosage to 40 milligram of sertraline, and that stabilised me. I just needed that little bit more to keep me calm. How I didn't relapse in that first few weeks, I never know, but I didn't. And like I say, I'm 18 months clean now.
Wow, massive respect. Massive. That's not to say addiction is addiction. Massive respect, and keep doing it. And those hard days that you feel like you just, oh, it's okay, maybe just this, maybe just that little bit.
No,
it's not worth it, because the next day there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. There's one thing I want to talk about though, right? Because I know a little bit about antidepressants, especially sertraline. I don't take them myself, never have, but I know a person who takes antidepressants, and whenever they don't have their antidepressants, it's not that they're depressed. They actually turn a wee bit vicious and crazy.
Can that
come off? Is that withdrawals, is it?
Do you know what? Citalopram was the worst type ever. You know, I would go a day without missing a tablet. You know, when you run out your tablets, you haven't ordered your new ones in time. That day or two of not having anything, the chemical imbalance, I used to get brain zaps, brain shudders, like electric volts, and vertigo, and you feel sick, you get hot pressure. That's what used to happen to me. And it's withdrawals. It's the body withdrawing, you know. This sertraline that I'm on is I've never had an issue. It's great. It's not great, but you know,
I can understand. So there must definitely be a chemical imbalance there. You know, I know a lot of people. There's a lot of criticisms to doctors and stuff giving out antidepressants willy-nilly to people, and to a certain degree that's correct, because you know, at the end of the day you're making money for the big pharmaceutical, but there is people like yourself that do have chemical imbalances that need to be balanced with these drugs like sertraline and others. And it did help you, so fair play. Do you know what I mean? It's worked for you.
And I was told, you know, they would have never worked anyway when you're smoking cannabis. So whether they worked or not, I don't know. But yeah, I came out. I'm on that now. I'm 18 months clean. I've not had a drink for a long time, ever since the incident I mentioned earlier. And the real thing that amazed me is I only went into this place to quit cannabis. Okay. But I'm now a non-smoker without vapes or patches for 18 months.
Wow.
Right? I stopped everything. I've smoked cigarettes from 17. I thought, right, I'll stop the weed. I'll come out and I'll still have my roll-ups or fags or whatever. I stopped everything.
Wow.
Unbelievable. You know, and that again is like a spiritual thing. It's like
madness.
You know, I've spoken to people that are alcoholics that are Christians now, born again, and they just stop drinking like that. It's taken away. You know, people it's unheard of, really.
The smoking, though, for me, because out of all the drugs on planet Earth, nicotine is the most addictive. Regardless of regardless of other drugs being more destructive, we're talking about addictiveness. Nicotine is the most addictive, right? And I struggle myself. Not that it doesn't affect my life, but I'm on one of these things. But the all time will always go back.
I watched your podcast the other day. I could see the blue smoke coming up. It's like blue smoke.
Like Cheech and Chong. My podcasts are like Cheech and Chong sometimes. And but I'll always, and it's the most addictive thing. So to go into something, and the only other time I've heard of this is when somebody's had an ayahuasca or a DMT experience where they take this sort of liquid or smoke this DMT, and then they'll go off cigarettes. I think it's more the ayahuasca, and it's like a spiritual experience. So there must be something linked to spirituality and addictiveness, and it helping you sort of leave addictions behind.
Just taking what they say, don't they? When you're a Christian, you cast all of your anxieties on Him. You know, anxieties, cravings, He will take them all away, and that's in the Bible. Those sort of things. So whether that was just the cravings were taken from me, I don't know, but I mean, I don't need to stop drinking, for example. But I know if I drink, when I get drunk, give me a fag. Then I've had a fag now. I'll get a 10-bit of weed. I can't touch any of it.
And will that be you then? If you just do that one little thing, will you spiraling out of control for weeks?
Yeah, I'm convinced it will. I'm convinced it will. I think I'll have one. Do you know what happens is you insert, I'll have one a week, then it's one every other day, then it's one a night, and then it's a 10 bag a night, and then before you know it, you're back to square one harder than you hit it before. But I'll tell you what, my life has changed. I'm awake. I've got a few quid in the bank. I've built all my PA system up myself, things that I could never have afforded. I've got iPads, decent PA system. It's just my kids.
Yeah. You don't want to
get what they want. No,
you don't want to waste it. Yeah.
If my kids need something, they can have it now. My son's got 20 or 30 designer T-shirts all hanging up that I bought him because I go to shop and go, oh, there's 50 quid for T-shirts for your Regan. There you go. I just can't help it.
It's something as a dad. As a dad, you want to be able to do that. It's called providing. It's another thing that we have as men. You want to be able to provide for your kids. You want your kids to be happy. And essentially, you want even, I know you've got your issues with, the mums and stuff, but at the end of the day, we want everybody to be happy. We don't want anybody to be sad. We want people to be fixed, even if they've done bad things to us. And, that's essentially what, life's about. But what is the plans for the future? Where do you see?
Yeah.
So you're a singer. You're clean 18 months. You are. You've got this motivation, this drive. Where will this motivation and drive take you for the next 10 years?
Yeah. Well, I just want to add as well. When I disappeared into this place, obviously I went offline for about 2 months, and nobody really knew where I went. So I had to I can't remember what I told people, but I think I just sort of said, look, lockdown's on its toll. I'm disappearing for a couple of months off social media. So a lot of people that are going to watch this are going to understand what actually happened during that period, where I went. So just want to clarify that. But a few close fans or friends of mine, I let know where I was and I gave my address out. And literally, I must have had 40 or 50 cards on my side table in this room. I had a whole filled place with cards. I was like a celebrity in there.
That's crazy, man.
Every day I had fan mail. It was like crazy. But yeah, ever since coming out and being clean, I've just gone from strength to strength. I have a filled diary for 2022. I'll go out every other weekend because I have my kids. So I don't do every weekend, which is a nice balance. I don't need to do every weekend because I work full time as well. So I've got that comfort, but when I do go out, I do 3 gigs on the trot, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, have my kids, then do a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and have my kids and so on. But I'm sitting here with a full diary this year, and literally I've got 14 gigs left for next year before it's even there. Before we've even hit 2023, my diary's full. I've got 2 years of full diary from a guy that was terrified to do anything to now just going out and embracing it. I just,
What about, I'm going to just throw this curveball at you, right? You said you don't like singing on the stage, right?
I didn't.
Oh, you do now, do you?
Oh, but now I'm sort of saying I'm overcome all this now.
Oh, right. I thought you said before it was still.
No,
what about the X Factor?
Do you know what? I think it's a farce. I've been and done many auditions like that. Not so many, probably a handful. The last one I did was Britain's Got Talent. I stood in the queue for 14 hours and sang a song in front of 2 17-year-old producers that probably didn't know the song I was singing, and then blah, blah, blah. But the only thing I will say is whenever I've done these auditions is when I've had a problem. I'm yet to do one when I've been clean in my new life. So I was always quite scared doing it then. Now I probably wouldn't be.
Well, that's why don't you do it again to see where it takes you? Yeah. Because I've heard your voice. You've got that voice.
It's just getting it right. It's getting the right song. It's being original. Do I want that? Do I want the trauma of being let down and not getting through? I don't know if I want that in my life.
Well, think about it this way, Jimmy. Right? It doesn't matter because you're still a fantastic singer. That show doesn't define who is the best vocalist. That defines. Like I would watch it for the vocals. My missus watches. I would go and I would watch it, and she would say, "Isn't he? It's not a great act." Yeah. And I'm saying, but it's not a great vocalist. For me, I like the song. I like the the sound of somebody's voice. To me, it's not about all the silly dancing,
yeah,
lights and stuff. It's about, to me, it's about the song and the lyrics and actually hitting that proper note. That's for me, that's what it's about. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I reckon, I've heard you sing. I reckon you do really, really well. I think vocally, a lot of people have come out of the X Factor and have been picked up. Maybe they haven't got far in the X Factor, but
but it's just
their vocals.
It's just being noticed. It isn't even winning the show. It's just a bit of
exposure. 100%.
I mean, I've done a few online competitions which I've won. I won a competition during lockdown at the beginning, actually, and it was only a couple of £100, and I gave it to a kids' charity. I just gave it away, so you can have it. I don't want it. I've recently put about 6 months ago sent a song off to an online competition, Vocal Star, I think it's called. And I only yesterday got an email saying I'm through to the last 30 out of thousands.
Wow.
It's not major. I think you win £1,000, you get 1,000 albums done for you, social media help and all that sort of stuff. But again, any little thing like that just leads to different things, doesn't it? My big thing at the minute is I need to lose a bit of weight. I mean, ever since I've stopped smoking and stopped the gear and all that, I've put on, I think, 4 stone in 18 months. I'm the heaviest I've ever been. And that's what I need to work at now, because again, it's an addiction with the eating. But I'm starting a diet tomorrow, a cleanse diet. So
yeah, let's just stick at it. Consistency. It doesn't matter what diet it is. The paleo, keto, a cleanse diet. Consistency is the key. You know that yourself.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Consistency is the key. It's that. It's people start the gym. People eat stuff. People have all these different diets. If you start a diet, it's that. The moment that it's that day where you go, oh, well, you know what? I'm just going to break this. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to have this little thing. Once you break that, that's it. You're not on that diet anymore. It's about the little moments, being consistent and disciplined. And essentially what it'll change your life. Because I do believe, I'm a massive believer in diet. Right now I'm being a hypocrite because this week all I've done is eat McDonald's and chocolate. Right? And it's terrible. It's terrible. And I don't pile on the weight, but I feel it inside. It's an unhealthiness, and I do believe diet is key.
Oh, it is
to a lot of things in life.
Yeah, I mean, I feel lethargic sometimes at work, and I just can't. Yeah. But that's something I need to work on. That's where I'm at now, where I've got everything not on a plate, but everything's going really well and positive. Mm-hmm. Last thing I need to do now is have a bloody heart attack. You know what I mean? I need to just get myself fit.
Yeah.
You know, but I just want to add as well, though, like obviously at the end of all this, I came out of rehab, singing, doing well. I actually got baptized. A lot of people don't know this either. I kept it quite private, if you like. I got baptized Easter Sunday in the big church in front of about 2,000 to 3,000 people. Doused in water, brought up. So, I did that, and I sort of gave myself. But again, keeping to those rules and living the right way is again difficult. It's not always easy to break old habits and stuff.
I know we're coming near the end of the podcast, but just obviously nobody remembers. I was christened as a kid. I come from a Catholic family, but what's it feel like to be baptized? Is it like? Is it like a passage or something, like you've accomplished something?
No, it's what they're saying is you're basically accepting that when you go down, the old life is left behind you, and then when you come out, you're reborn. Yeah. So that's what it is, and then I have a weekly life group that I meet with, and I said to my God, some of my mates had seen me. I mean, a few weeks back, one of the life group members had moved into a new house, and we're there walking in every room in the house, blessing the bedroom, blessing the bathroom. And I'm walking around doing a prayer in the bathroom. People wouldn't believe it, But it's a calm way of living. It's just calm. It's being nice to each other. It's not a bad thing. It's just,
So you, in your opinion, you're a believer in God and Jesus. You're a believer in Jesus Christ, and that is who you are. That's that is the religion that you go by.
I do now. Yeah, I mean, I do now. Before I was always one or the other. I'm not a full-on Bible basher, if you like. I don't preach to people about it. I just have this feeling in me that I know something other people don't, and I sometimes look at people out and about, and I look at them as lost souls, and look at them as if say you're lost. You don't realise there is a bigger picture to this world. You know, the reproductive system, the fact that the earth has vegetables and fruits that we can survive on. It's just, it's a bigger picture.
There's something, man, isn't it? There is something,
I'm
like
telling
there
you.
has to be. There is, like, you know, people could talk about science, but I always say, look, science and religion are probably the exact same thing. It doesn't, you know.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean,
look how small we are on this planet. Like, I always have to talk about it. We're on this tiny, small planet, right? And there's endless planets in this universe, and we can't find any planet near us that has life. No. And they think that it's possible. There's a possibility that there's no life for trillions and trillions of light years away. So, I mean, essentially, that's time travel if you're talking about that distance. So, if you're thinking about that, then there has to be something.
We are very, you know, we're that small in time. You know, we live to 70 or 80, we die. In the big scheme of things, we're nothing. We're irrelevant, really. We're just like
we're relevant. We're irrelevant, but we mean everything at the same time.
Yeah, but we're just like a blip of history. You know, bang, gone. You know, I said to my son the other day, we went to go karting on Sunday. Even on the way back, you know, he's seen me transform a little bit as well. You know, so he's like seeing me as being a hothead, a bit of a maniac, to talking about God to him sometimes. So, you know, and I was on the way home. I said, look, whatever you do, Regan, his name's Regan. I said, all you just make sure you do is before you die, you give yourself to God. I said, because if there is a heaven, it's not much of a gamble, is it? You know what I mean? Just to say a prayer and say, you know, like, I've repented of my sins, you know, blah, blah, blah. People do it on their deathbeds, and that's good enough that you can do it on your deathbed.
It's the faith I envy, because faith, I see people with faith, and it's not God, it's not the religion, it's the faith. How can you believe so staunch? I spoke to a priest, and actually, and I don't like to promote it, because I don't like to promote this type of negativity, because it is a negativity. And he talked to me about this. He was a priest, and he was an exorcist, and he says, I don't want you to talk about this. And I'm sort of breaking that, and I'm going to speak to you, because obviously, you know, I don't know why I'm speaking about it, but I'm going to say this anyway. And he says, the reason why you don't talk about this, he says, because it's real. And this is how it spreads, this negative energy. When you talk about this, you're actually feeding it. And he said, we were talking about, he says, it's real. These things do live inside some people. And a demon, negative energy, he says, I don't care if you're religious, I don't care if you believe in God or not. He goes, it's there, it's inside people. He says, and sometimes we can't diagnose these people with schizophrenia, with all these different things. He says, and when we can't do that, he goes, I have been in countless situations where I have exercised somebody and they have changed personalities, and I am not looking at the person that was once in front of me. And after 15, 20 minutes sessions for maybe a month, that person is cleansed and that person is a new person. He was,
I'm telling you.
Do you know,
and
he looked at me and he goes, whether you want to believe that is science or religion, I do not care.
No, he knows, because I know.
Wow.
Yeah, it's freaky, but it's honestly.
That hit me hard. It hit me hard, because I was thinking, he goes, you don't even know it's there, Ronan. He goes, and you'll feel it one day and you'll know you're different. And he goes, and don't be afraid. Like, he was about talking about praying to Jesus and pray to Jesus Christ, and you can do this yourself and will release all this negative energy. And I tried it and it worked. But I thought to myself, is this because I'm meditating in this prayer? Because if you pray, it's meditation essentially.
Do you know what the biggest thing is? It's keeping it in your life continuously, which I don't do enough of, if I'm honest. I don't read the Bible a lot. I don't pray a lot. It's still a bit of a chore for me to do. They say that God will never draw away from you. Only you will draw away from him. So if you're not doing all these things, you end up drawing away, and that feeling goes. That feeling of being protected, and it goes. And I've experienced that a couple of times, and it's because you're not doing enough. You know, it's
crazy, man. It's crazy. I would love to get you back on to even just talk about a whole range of subjects and even do other things that we've missed. But listen, is there any? It has come to the end of the podcast. Is there anything else that you want to talk about or you want to say?
No, do you know what? I'm just grateful you've allowed me the platform to come on. It's the first one I've done. I've never done anything like this. I don't believe my story is anything special compared to a lot of the stories you see online. I don't know it might be relevant for some people. Some people might like the story. But you know, I've just come from a life of struggling and mental and depression, anxiety, and feeling helpless, where I'm not going to make anything of my life, to having a story and pattern of just going continually upwards to where I am today. And things are only going to keep going that way, I think. So
no, man, listen, it was my pleasure. It's, you know, to get you on to tell your story about you, because there's lots of, as I say, we spoke about a whole range of subjects, from men's issues to domestic abuse against men, to religion, to your story, to drugs, to different types of addiction. That's for me, it's priceless to get a guy on like yourself with a wealth of knowledge and such life experiences. And I admit, it's an absolute pleasure. Guys, as I say, all the links for all Jimmy's stuff can be found in the comment section of this video. That's any music, social medias, and I would urge people to go over to his Facebook page, like the Facebook page, and whatever other social medias he has, because, you know, follow Jimmy on this journey. I will be, and hopefully, Jimmy, you come back and grace us with your presence another time, because it was fantastic.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, mate. Anytime, you know. Always
Good man.
if you want me.
Good man. Peace.